history on Michael Pornstar King and the movement that further led us down that rabbit hole of more poverty, that further led us down. And when I say us, I'm talking about so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Indians. Further led us down that rabbit hole of oppression, and there's nothing that we can do to thank. There's no way we can thank this man for anything that would have been progression on Israel having a peaceable state in America. One thing you got to understand is that black people were doing perfectly fine during segregation. And the reason why I say that is because we aimed to acquire the one thing that can give us power, and that is resources, right? When you're marching down the street and you're doing the whole Black Lives Matter and you're protesting, you're not doing it for the embetterment of your people. Essentially what you're doing it for is to join your enemy. And the idea of joining your enemy, it's what's going to lead us to to more of an oppressive state, because your enemy understands one thing that black and Hispanic people don't understand, and that's superiority. That's the idea of being a supreme race. And every nation has this notion in their mind that they want to be the best nation. They want to be the nation on top, except for the Lord's people, except for black and Hispanic people, where we would rather be subservient to our masters. And so the mentality is strictly comes from the Christian church, the Christian methodology, the Christian mindset. It's the idea, and there's two types of Christianity, right? There's our oppressors Christianity, and there's the so-called Negroes Christianity. Our oppressor's Christianity, his ideology of it, he believes in justice. And what do we believe in?
Forgiveness.
We believe in forgiveness. No matter what you do, what are we going to turn?
What'd you say, sir?
No matter what you do to me, what are we going to turn? The whole idea of turning the other cheek, which is the most misunderstood scripture in the Bible. The whole idea of loving thine enemy, right, is the most misunderstood scripture in the Bible. And the undertone of these scriptures is why, Southern Baptist preachers like MLK led our people into a burning building. You know what I'm saying? The notion that our people look at a man with fair speech and eloquent words and fair clothing and nice clothing as a man of God. You know what I mean? And we're going to disprove that none of these famous preachers, including the head of them all, MLK, were truly men of God. And we're going to prove that today.
I got the definition for you, sir.
Yeah, give me envy not thy oppressor. Give me the definition. Read the first line and then give me the definition.
Khan Adawan Khan.
Go ahead. And if you want to be frank with it, the reason why the whole civil rights movement and all these protestings and all these boycotts were a factor is because of the whole idea of envying your oppressor, the idea of wanting to be like your oppressor. So by wanting to be like your oppressor, you want to eat the same food in the same restaurant he eats in. You want to sit in the same bus that he rides on. You know what I mean? You want to live that American dream that only works for him. But as you try to live it, and as you try to attain to his level, it only makes your people. It only creates a nightmare for your people. But give me that real quick.
Khan Adawan Khan. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor.
So it says, envy thou not the oppressor, right? What does the word envy mean? Let's look it up.
Envy. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Go ahead.
Definition of envy.
Yep.
Entry 1 of 2. Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess the same advantage.
Okay. So now read that one more time. That's powerful.
Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with
our oppressor has the advantage, right? Meaning the Lord has blessed our oppressor with rulership of the planet Earth, with finances, with the sword, which is why he's able to conquer and go from sea to shining sea, you know what I'm saying, and take over. This is why he's able to enjoy this American dream, you know what I'm saying, which is why he's able to live in a heaven-like state. And so we envy that every time we see him on TV. We envy the advantage that he has, and we too want to be a part of that advantage, right? Which is why sisters, dye their hair blonde and wear blue eye contacts. It's because you envy your oppressor. Go ahead.
Scriptural definition.
Yeah, finish the definition.
Finish the
definition.
Definition. Definition. First entry. Second definition. Obsolete. Malice.
No. Read the first one. Finish the first one.
Oh, finish the first one?
Yeah.
Definition 1. Painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess the same advantage.
See, now that's what we want to do. We want to join as a desire to possess the same advantage. It's the reason why a lot of brothers and sisters aim to leave the what? Leave the hood. Aim to leave their neighborhood and go live in and truly be the minority in numbers in the suburbs of America, to go live amongst their oppressors. And so because we are trying to acquire the same advantages as them. Keep reading on the scripture.
Scripture.
Read it from the top.
Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
And choose none of his ways. I mean, think about it like this, right? Think about the whole civil rights movement. The whole motive behind that was to choose the ways of your oppressor. You look at your oppressor and you say, you know what? And I don't get it. I don't get why anyone would say this, but you know what? I would rather eat in his diner Why would you want to eat in your oppressor's diner, knowing that our diners we make better food?
Con.
You know what I mean? We're more comfortable in our diners because there's a likelihood I'm not going to get lynched after I leave this diner by my own people.
Con.
Right? There was a time in America, right, when it came to the bus boycotts, right? There was a time in America where there was black bus lines, bus lines that were owned by black people, right?
Con, sure.
And they were found in damn near a lot of cities in America, right? When you think about Rosa Parks, what is the truth behind that whole thing? Who was really the face of the bus boycott?
The face of it was Martin Luther King.
Yep. To the public, the face was MLK, but Rosa Parks, to the public, that was the face, right? Yeah. But that bus boycott didn't start with Rosa Parks.
No, it didn't.
It actually started by a young girl. What's her name? By the name of Salaki. Let me just pull up the name real quick. See if I can find it. Okay, it's actually by a girl by the name of Claudette Golvin. Look that up real quick. Claudette Golvin. Let's pull her story up real quick. You see, during that time, right, a year prior to Rosa Parks getting arrested for not wanting to give up her seat to a white man.
You said Goldman?
Golvin, Golvin. Claudette Golvin. Look this young girl's name up and see why she was not the face, like why her story could not move the nation or move the public to take action.
I'll go to Wikipedia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Claudette Colvin.
Go ahead.
Wikipedia. Claudette Colvin, born September 5th, 1939, in a retired American...
Jump to bus incident.
Huh?
Jump down to bus incident. I don't want to go too much into her life, but the third part, what's a bus incident? Go ahead.
Bus incident. In 1955, Colvin was a student at a segregated Booker T. Washington High School in the city.
Go ahead.
She relied on the city's buses to get to and from school.
Now, keep in mind, the city buses, 75% were of the bus riders were Negroes, or so-called African Americans. Go ahead.
Because her parents did not own a car, the majority of customers on the bus system were African American.
Go ahead.
But they were discriminated against by its custom of segregated seating.
Let me tell you something, right? We fought so hard, right, to sit in the front of the bus, right? When you roll to 2020, where do most black and Hispanic people sit?
In the back.
They sit right in the back of the bus. What was the whole point of that? It was pointless. You fought to sit in the front. And who the hell likes to sit in the front?
Nobody.
You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Con out of one con. She said that she aspired to be president one day.
Go ahead.
Colvin was a member of...
And that's another thing that they do in school. They ask you, so Keisha, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? They always ask that question, right? Right? And what do most black people aspire to be? What are some of the common answers?
Policemen, firemen.
Policemen, say it again. Firemen. Go ahead.
Politicians.
Doctors, nurses, lawyers. What did this girl say?
President.
She wants to be the what?
President.
President, right? What kind of mentality is that?
Same as all of them, slave mentality.
The slave mentality, but what don't we allow in Israel? We don't allow women
Oh yeah, to rule.
in leadership roles.
Con.
Presidents, judges, right? Keep reading.
Con out of one con. Colvin was a member of the NAACP Youth Council.
And they called her young. NAACP was an organization that was run by black and white people, right? Both black and white people. You know what I'm saying? I could have sworn. I could have sworn that if you're going to run an organization that is to cater towards the Negro population, you would want your members to be strictly what?
Black.
Black, right? I'll tell you how dumb it sounds. It's like the Ku Klux Klan, right? You're a Ku Klux Klan organization with black people in the organization. Does that make sense? It makes absolutely no sense. See, anytime we have some sort of faction or some sort of movement, we feel like we always have to have our oppressors join us in our movements, right? But in no other nation thinks like that, right? It's like, I'll give you an example, right? Imagine there's like one of those clubs, like an Italian club, right? Somewhere, local club, right? And it's a club mainly for what? Italian members, right?
Con.
What if your symbol behind walk through them doors? What do you think they tell you?
You're not a member. You can't be here.
Why can't you be a member?
Because you don't have the same skin.
Because you're not Italian.
Yeah.
What sense does it make for you to join an Italian club, but you're not Italian? Us, we're the opposite. Our oppressor walks through the door, guess what we do? We deal in roofing with open arms. We let them right in.
Con.
And as we let them right in, it's a form of infiltration, because now the movement becomes shaky, it doesn't become grounded anymore, because it's not something that, any movement of when it involves some sort of ethnicity, it has to be a separate movement. You know what I'm saying? The reason why the civil rights movement could not work, because it was not a separate movement, right? The UPK, we fight for civil rights all the time, don't we?
Con, sir.
Yeah, we fight for the civil rights of our people, right? And what we tell our people is to what? Is to separate. You know why? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to bring back a nation. And you can't do it by trying to seek peace with your oppressor. Give me First Esdras chapter 8, verse 85. After we finish this right here.
And you said 85?
Yeah, hold that and just finish what you was reading.
Oh boy.
This was what I was just ranting about, was the NAACP and how there's white members in the NAACP. You know what I'm saying? Which is the most oxymoron thing I've ever heard. But go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 3, verse 32.
No. Finish this. Hold Proverbs. Hold Ezra chapter 8, verse 85. But let's finish this on this bus incident real quick. Yeah, we didn't finish that. I just stopped the NAACP, which is formed by a brother, a sister, and a devil. But go ahead.
Con out of one con. Colvin was a member of the NAACP Youth Council and had been learning about the civil rights movement in school.
Mm-hmm.
On March 2nd, 1955, she was returning home from school.
Go ahead.
She sat in the colored section about 2 seats away from an emergency exit.
Go ahead.
In a Capitol Heights bus.
Go ahead.
If the bus became so crowded that all the white seats in the front of the bus filled until white people were standing.
Go ahead.
Any African American were supposed to get up from standing in front.
Get up from nearby seats.
Standing in front. The bus driver, Robert W. Clare, commanded Colvin and 3 other black women in her row to move to the back.
Go ahead.
The other 3 moved, but another pregnant black woman, Ruth Hamilton, got on and sat next to Colvin.
Go ahead.
The driver looked at them in his mirror. He asked us both to get up. Salaki, sir, if I may.
Yep.
They have no regard for the old or the young, to the point that they don't even care if the baby's born or not. This woman is pregnant and sat next to that sister.
That's right. That's
you
right.
didn't care. Y'all got to get up. But Salaki, Miss Hamilton said she was not going to get up, and that she had paid her fare, and that she didn't feel like standing.
So now, go ahead, keep reading. Let's just finish this.
Recalls Colvin, so I told him I was not going to get up either. So he said, if you're not going to get up, I will call a policeman. The police arrived and convinced a black man sitting behind the 2 women to move so that Miss Hamilton could move back.
Go ahead.
But Colvin still refused to move.
Go ahead.
She was forcibly removed from the bus and arrested by the 2 policemen, Thomas J. Ward and Paul Headley. This event took place 9 months before the NAACP secretary, Rosa Parks, was famously arrested for the same offense.
Now, what a coincidence, right? Rosa Parks was a secretary.
She was a plant.
She was planted. I believe she was planted to do that a year later, because this story of this sister, if you look at the photo of the sister, right? She's a dark-skinned sister, right? And
Beautiful sister.
yeah, she's a dark-skinned sister, but here's what her mother said. Keep scroll down all the way to yeah, keep reading. Actually, you're gonna figure out what her mother said about
Salaki, sir, I just thought of something.
Go ahead.
All through my whole life, I was taught Rosa Parks' excuse for not moving was because her feet hurt.
Yeah, me
she
too.
just left work and her feet were hurt.
That's
right. She's a secretary.
That's right.
What is she doing on her feet?
Yeah, secretaries are not on their feet.
Salaki.
Good observation. Good observation. But go ahead.
Kind out of one kind. Continue. Her mother, Salaki. My mother told me to be quiet.
Now, what do most black parents tell their children? Now, where does that come from?
That comes from slavery. Black women wanted to protect their family from the overseer and the master.
That's right. That's where it comes from. Until this day, the problem with our parents is that the reason why they're still alive is because of what?
Repeat the question?
The reason why our parents are still alive is because of what?
They were cowards.
They were cowards. That's right. See, your parents, when your parents tell you to be quiet and don't speak up, it's because they were cowards. It's because they were scared. Right? It's a natural thing, right? You want to live, what do? You be quiet. You don't say nothing, right? Here's what's so unique about the men of the UPK is that despite the fact that our parents told us to be quiet and not to speak up against massa, we blow like a trumpet in the streets of Boston, in the streets of New York. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
It's a lot. You know, come across a lot of brothers in the school, and what we have in common, low key, this may hit your point, it may not. Before we came into the truth, A lot of us had altercations with police.
That's right.
Not on some, okay, I'm arrested, I'm caught. No, there was conflict.
That's right.
Almost all of us.
That's right.
So that might just be a spirit that's in us.
Yeah.
Not to just shut up like our mama, when we was growing up, our mama would tell us.
Boy, you better shut your mouth, boy.
Yeah, or how to act around the police. She'll just say, yes, sir.
That's right.
No, sir.
That's
all
right.
That.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Parents used to tell us that. But a lot of us, the brothers in school, did not follow that.
Yeah, and there is a time. There is a time to speak. There's a way to speak. You know what I mean? In a situation where you're getting pulled over by the police, don't try to argue with the police officer. Here's what you do when the police pulls you over. Your hands on the wheel already. Actually, put everything in your fingers right here before he comes, and just hold on to the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, license registration. There you go. Drop it on the floor if you have to. There you go. Pick it up. And go right here. And don't even beg your way out of there. Get the ticket. Go to jail. Do whatever you got to do. Don't beg your way out of it. Don't have a beggar's spirit. You know what I mean? But keep reading. Let's hear what a mother says. Keep reading on what a mother says.
A mother told me to be quiet about what I did. She told me to let Rosa be the one.
See now, she's like, I know what these devils can do to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Rosa Parks from a hole in the wall, but I know that it'll work for her because of what? What was the difference between them two?
One was light skin, one was dark skin.
That's right, and that's that whole Jim Crow thing. That's that whole Willie Lynch letter thing that I brought up last time, where it does make a difference between what the misinterpretation of what fair skin is and dark skin. It does make a huge difference. But go ahead.
And that sister's still alive.
Go ahead. Keep reading.
It's alive. That was just a side note.
Mm-hmm.
It's alive. But kind out of one kind.
Watch what she says next.
Oh, Khan said, so let Rosa be the one.
Go ahead.
White people aren't going to bother Rosa. They like her.
Well, why would they like her?
Because she likes it.
Now, who were the house niggas?
Or probably known to be the light skin.
More than likely the light skins. You know why?
Because they were more acceptable visually.
Visually. That's all. They liked them.
What was the question?
They liked them. You know, in America at one time, they did a study and said, I forget where the source is, I think the general brought it up, where it says that at one time, Americans believed that the black skin was made out of feces.
Oh, right? The Mormons definitely. That was in the scripts.
Yeah. So they looked at it like we were dirty and our skin was made out of our feces. That's why our skin was like that. And a lot of these, our oppressor truly believed that. You know what I'm saying? As scientists are trying to prove that we were subhuman, and they've tried all kinds of ways to prove it, to further promote hatred for the Lord's chosen people. But go ahead.
Kind out of one kind. Colvin did not receive the same attention as Parks for a number of reasons. She did not have good hair.
Go ahead. Number one. That's Willie Lynch letter. Go ahead.
She was not fair-skinned.
Willie Lynch letter.
She was a teenager.
Go ahead.
She got pregnant.
And keep in mind, she was a teenager, right? Young and old makes a difference too.
Mm-hmm.
The grave and the young makes a difference too. But go ahead.
Kind out of one kind. The leaders in the civil rights movement.
Now, why do I say young and old make a difference?
Sensitivity.
Think about the older crowd during this time. They were more what? Submissive.
Yeah.
What about the younger crowd?
More rebellious.
They were more rebellious. They were more outspoken. Jump into the what is it called? No, the incident where the fire department used a fire hose on those students.
On students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The students, right? You seen that? Everyone's have seen that video. It was a young crowd, right? Who's out in these streets right now?
Young students.
Young crowd. It's a young crowd. There's a difference because the old have been there enough seasons to know and understand this devil. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And the young, they have what? Fire, right? They have fire in them. They have a spirit in them that wants to fight. But here's what the old do. Here's what your parents did. They suppress it. They extinguish that spirit, and they take the fight out of you by saying, you need to love your oppressor. You need to hug him every time you see him. You need to forgive him for everything he's done to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So why?
No, keep reading. Go ahead. The leaders in the civil rights movement.
Oh, Khan out of one Khan. She was fair-skinned. She was a teenager. The leaders in the civil rights movement tried to keep up appearances and make the most appealing protesters the most seen.
And that was the game plan. See, Rosa Parks is the most appealing to America, which would have got more national attention than this young dark-skinned sister right here. Right? Go ahead.
Recognition is due
Kill
to...
that. Kill that.
Huh?
Now, kill that. Give me 1 Esdras 8 and 85.
1 Esdras, chapter 8, verse 85. Moreover, ye shall never seek to have peace with them.
Let me tell you something. The civil rights movement was aimed to have peace with your oppressor, to think that you can one day be equal to your oppressor, when the Constitution wasn't written for you to be equal to your oppressor. You know what I'm saying? When it said all men are created equal, you were still a slave, so they weren't regarding you as all men. At one point in time in America, you were livestock. You wasn't considered a man. So the Constitution wasn't, the impression of the Constitution did not, fall in line with you. But go ahead.
Khan out of one Khan. That ye may be strong.
And here's the thing, is that our strength as a nation, our strength as a community is when we stick together. Is when we don't seek their peace. Because then, in times of like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all these different black communities that were all across the nation, we had our own pharmacies, we had our own lawyers, we had our own doctors. You know what I'm saying? We had our own business infrastructure. We had our own, economy. You know what I'm saying? Within the American economy, we had our own subdivision of our economy, and we gave that all up for shepherds that were not sent by the Lord, who deceived the simple. Right? Keep reading.
Khan out of one Khan. And eat the good things of the land.
And that's the only way we're going to be able to see. This is a black man's book, right? It's the only way we're going to be able to eat. You know what I'm saying? The only way we're going to be able to eat and sustain is by understanding that we can do this on our own. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to be in alignment with the ones that are putting us in this in the state that we're in, putting us in this oppressive state. We don't need to be in alignment with slave masters, and this is what his whole speech was about. It's to align ourselves with our slave master. It's to align ourselves with our enemy. And this is why Michael King was evil as hell. Martin Luther King was evil as hell. He's just like every other preacher. You know what I'm saying? This whole doctrine, seducing doctrine of love, or the false pretense of love, and of loving your enemy, of joining your enemy, which is something that is so dangerous. And that's, it's so dangerous in this sense, is that because of that philosophy, which is not scriptural, because of that, so many brothers have died. So many brothers are in the grave because of the spewing doctrines of devils. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump to Shalaki. Let's pull up MLK. Let me get that. Let me chime in on him, because there's a couple things that we're gonna pull up on him. Any more on that scripture?
Oh no, that was just
Okay, let's pull that up real quick. You got it?
What are you looking for specifically? With
Just go to
Salaki, there's
which one you got?
now there's more in the scripture. There's more in the scripture.
Okay, so let me just give you a rundown of MLK. Right? Just because I know we're gonna lose time. This was a man that was under the tutelage of his father, who was a so-called Southern Baptist minister, right? And what we got to understand is that how this man was raised. He was raised with Christian theology. You know what I'm saying? His original name was Michael King. And that's the name he was born with. And his father was inspired when he went to Germany one time. And he was inspired by the Protestant Reformation leader by the name of Martin Luther, right? And this is where the whole Martin Luther King comes from. It comes from this Protestant Reformation leader who, when he went to Germany and got this inspiration, he condemned anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is, see, the Christian church, especially the Southern Baptist Christian church, they worship Israel. And so if you are a white Jew, then you are worshipped in these churches and in most churches across America, because in their mind, and even in King's speech, he even brought this up. In their mind, they believe that they're the Jews, and black people and Hispanic people and everyone else are the Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what they believe, and that's why they worship those. That's why they always say in those churches, pray for Israel.
Okay.
They always say that, pray for Israel, because they want you to worship who they think are the Lord's chosen people, right? Which is more of loving your oppressor, right? That's where that whole ideology comes from. So basically, he ended up changing his name to Martin Luther King Jr., right? And it's even, rumored that his father had, his grandfather had Irish ancestry. That's a whole nother thing. I don't want to get into that.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? But so King grew up. Martin grew up. And he basically early on in his life, he went through a high level of schooling at a young age. You know what I'm saying? He went to Morehouse College, historically black college, right? Until he went to a theologian school, and that's where he kind of got involved in theology and got a degree in theology, and that was up in Pennsylvania. But he was under some devil by the name of Walter Rauschenbusch, right? and he was interested in what this guy called the social gospel. Something you can look up, but for sake of time, we don't have too much that we can bring up on him for sake of time. And at that time, he ended up with a white woman that he was in a relationship with. You know what I mean? And eventually, because of the path that he was trying to take, and he ended up breaking off that relationship. But considering because of Christianity, and it's like that for most of us, because of Christianity, the idea that that God loves everybody, the idea that when you carefully study what theology does, theology is the involvement of all nations, and that the Lord is dealing with all nations, and that's not in the scriptures. So we got to get to a point where, like, prior to the civil rights movement, he was all about interracial marriage, because this white woman he clearly loved and he spoke about highly before he met Coretta Scott King. But that's just a little bit of insight on him. So what we're gonna do is let's go to let's start with read the first part. We're gonna get to we're gonna get into the FBI recordings, FBI files. I also want to get into the time that the Most High almost took him out with some crazy woman that stabbed him up back in 1958. But go ahead.
Khan Adawan Khan. Martin Luther King. Internet source, Wikipedia.com. Martin Luther King, January 15th, 1929 to April 4th, 1968, was an American Christian minister and activist who became the most visible spokesperson and leader in the civil rights movement. From 1955 until his assassination in 1968, born in Atlanta, Georgia, King is best known for advancing civil rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience.
So, Martin Luther King, he was inspired by Gandhi in India, right? Around the time the British occupied India for a long period of time, and Gandhi was the one that came up with this nonviolent movement, this peaceful movement, which essentially got the British out of there because of this movement. So keep reading. He was definitely inspired by that, which is why he took that route, which was opposite of what Malcolm X was saying, where he was saying that, we need to protect ourselves and we need to separate from our oppressor. While MLK was on some, we need to join our oppressor. And maybe one day he will change. But go ahead.
Inspired by his Christian belief in the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi, King led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, and in 1957 became the first president of the Second Christian Leadership Conference. With the SCLC, he led an unsuccessful 1962 struggle against segregation.
The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, keep in mind, all Christian churches are part of some sort of leadership. There's some sort of conference that they're all a part of. They have hierarchies that they report to. And so the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, they were the ones that were teaching people how to protest with this nonviolent approach. And so he became the president of this, and this is how he really got famous, by becoming the president of this organization, this conference. But go ahead.
and helped organize nonviolent 1963 protests in Birmingham, Alabama.
Go ahead.
He helped organize the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech.
Okay. Now, he delivered that famous "I Have a Dream" speech, right? And the problem with that, right, is that in that speech it says, we're gonna go over that speech right now, right? It says, "I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream." Notice what he said. He said it's a dream, right, that's deeply rooted in the American dream. What is the American dream? And where did that term, the American dream, come from?
I do not know, sir.
Okay, so freelance writer James Truslow popularized the phrase American Dream in his 1931 book, Epic of America. But there has been also the American dream, that dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for every man, with opportunity for each according to his ability of achievement, right? Let me tell you something. The American dream can never work for us. It's because 95% of black people are in poverty, right? And in any kingdom, a kingdom is not designed for everyone to be a master. There has to be a master-slave relationship. And America has allowed all the other nations to come and live deliciously and to profit off their slaves, which is the so-called black man, so-called Hispanic man. And so the American dream can never work in a kingdom that is not made for our people. You know what I'm saying? This kingdom is not made for our people. This kingdom was made for our oppressor to enjoy the wealth and the riches and to live fully in this land, right? But keep reading. Let me keep reading on this one. He says this. So now he wants us to be deeply rooted in this American dream, which is why a lot of people from all over the country, all over the world, come to America to try to live out this American dream, right? He said this: "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed." Right? What is the true meaning of its creed? What is the nation? What do you mean when he says, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed"? The idea of the inception of America and how and the "Make America Great Again" is when you was a slave, when you were in chains, right? That's when they considered America to be great. You know what I'm saying? That's when America was at its pivotal point. You know what I mean? It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. When the Constitution was created, you were not part of that line on that Constitution.
Not at all.
You weren't even considered a man. You were considered subhuman. You were considered a beast, livestock. So you know that it could never live up to its, if it's going to live up to its true meaning of its creed, the whole idea of the American dream never involved you. And if you are, and your involvement is only for servitude. It's not for superiority. The whole reason for the true meaning of its creed is for white supremacy, the white reign on the earth. And then it says this: I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. That is such a slave mentality. You know why? Because brotherhood is only established amongst your kinsmen, amongst those that are in your nation. It's the only way you can truly establish brotherhood. What do I mean by that? What I'm saying is this: you can't establish a level of brotherhood, because brotherhood it's only something that can be characterized with one nation of people. The whole term brotherhood is a biblical term. You know what I mean? It can only be established with one nation of people. Your oppressor does not keep the laws of the Most High. So therefore, he does not know what? He does not know how to love, right? If you're not keeping the Lord's commandments, it says this: for this is love, right? That we keep his commandments, right? Now, maybe the white man could learn brotherhood one day when we're in rulership. You know what I mean? And they can look on us, and now they have to keep the laws of the Most High. Maybe that's when they can learn brotherhood amongst themselves. But right now, they don't even have brotherhood. Go ahead.
Salaki, sir, I just, something I've been thinking of. In that speech, he said, I had a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
That's the whole being a patriot, being all-American.
But in his life, what has the American dream showed? What is the true American dream that he experienced in his life? It definitely was not integration.
It showed, you know what it showed? A crack on his forehead when that rock hit him. That's what it showed.
That's the American dream.
That's it.
Separation.
See, the whole speech itself, the simple can be deceived by it. But when you truly look at it, the American dream is the reason why black and Hispanic people have joined the military and are going to die in World War III. The American dream is the reason why blacks and Hispanics join the police union and end up beating up and being violent towards their brother, which is why John said this. He said when he's talking to the soldiers, he said, "Don't be violent. Don't do no violence." And this is what like being a black officer, you are going to commit violence towards your brother, right? So he says, former slave owners will sit down together at the table of brotherhood. This right here, this sentence right here, is that's a John 3:16 right there. This right here is John 3:16.
Slapping the Most High's face.
You know what I mean? But go ahead. Oh no, let me read it. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. Now let me tell you something about his dreams, right? We're going to finish it up right here, right? It says, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Let me tell you something, right? Them 4 little children that you're talking about, they're being judged by the content of their character. And guess how they perceive black and Hispanic children?
Who's that?
The same people that have put 2 million black men in jail, in prison.
Oh, how do our enemies perceive us?
Yeah, how does your enemy perceive you?
As just that, enemies.
Enemies, and they perceive you as criminals. That's all. They perceive you as a criminal. You know what I'm saying? The content of your character is dismissive to your enemy, because in his mind, when he's growing up in the middle of Wyoming somewhere, guess what he sees on TV?
you say?
Guess what he sees on TV? What you know? He's living somewhere in the middle of
content
Wyoming.
of the white man's character.
Yeah, say it again.
He sees the content of the white man's character.
But what does he see when he looks in the screen and he sees us?
Sees us getting beat down.
He sees us as drug dealers.
Yeah.
He sees us as criminals. He sees us as what? All the stigma that you can think of.
Yeah,
He's putting on us. Yeah, go ahead. Because it's something that's passed on. See, the oppressor passes it on to his children from generation to generation to generation. You know what I'm saying? So the same notion still applies, but they try to put a face mask on it. Go ahead.
But Salaka, sir, if he was a wise man and those children, those 4 children, were raised properly and to judge our enemies with the content of their character, then they will understand that our enemies are our enemies.
That's right.
But they're not judging on the content of character; they're judging on the content of their own lust.
And here's the last part. I have a dream today, right? I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious races, with its governor having lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. Now, what happened with Dylan Roof? Dylan Roof came in there into the South Carolina church, and what did he do? Did he join hands?
He joined his little white hands on a little black gun.
That's right, and he loaded up at least 9 times. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead. Give me Ecclesiasticus 34:7.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 34, verse 7.
Go ahead.
And it reads, "For dreams have deceived many."
Let me tell you something. MLK's dreams have deceived many. And guess what happened after the Civil Rights Movement? All the businesses were gone. All the black businesses were gone. Guess what happened after the Civil Rights Movement? The prison population quadrupled. Guess what happened after the Civil Rights Movement? All the real estate was gone.
All the business. Yeah.
All the black communities were infiltrated by heathens because of one man's dreams, right? Keep reading.
And they have failed that put their trust in them.
And that's why you're destroyed today. And that's why your kids are destroyed today. Because you put your trust in shepherds who the Lord did not call. And leadership who the Lord did not appoint. You put your trust in them, right? Go ahead.
The Lord shall be found perfect without lies.
And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? What they were preaching and telling the mass, the black mass, was with lies. Because them dreams that he dreamed was a lie, right? Give me Ecclesiasticus 34:2.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 34, verse 2. Whosoever regardeth dreams is like him.
No, start at verse 1.
The hopes of a man void of understanding are vain and false.
And that's and that whole crowd that went to go listen to his speech, these were men void of understanding and are vain and false, right? Go ahead.
And dreams lift up fools.
And that's what happens. That dream, they built a sense of pride after that speech, right? They were gassed after that speech, right? And what did the Lord do? And what did the Lord do to this dreamer?
Whoso regardeth dreams is like him that catcheth at a shadow.
And that's all you're doing. That is the whole civil rights movement. You were just catching a shadow, right? Do you ever catch the shadow? You will never catch any equality in America as a black or Hispanic man. It has to be done by the hands of the Lord, right? And go ahead, keep reading.
And followeth after the wind.
And all you're doing is chasing the wind with this whole civil rights movement. There's no way you can come to attain civil nobility in America. Give me one more. Last one. Give me Ezekiel. Give me Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 2.
Ezekiel chapter. They were actually late.
MLK, listen, MLK was the same man that J. Edgar Hoover was like a heat-sinking missile on MLK, and it's been proven that FBI recordings of him and his infidelity, of him chasing white women while he was married to Coretta Scott. This was proven. See, the problem with what you don't understand about preachers, your preachers, is that they're lustful bastards. And they're adulterous. That's what they do. That's all they do. You know what I'm saying? MLK, Michael Pornstar King, Martin Luther King, was known for his infidelity. And it was something that he was exposed of. But go ahead.
Ezekiel 34, verse 2.
Go ahead.
Son of man, prophecy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy. And say unto them, thus saith the Lord God unto the shepherds, woe be to the shepherds of Israel.
Meaning destruction be to the shepherds of Israel. That's why MLK caught a bullet in his head, because the Lord is going to cause destruction to come amongst these false prophets that have led our people astray and walked them into a burning building. That's exactly what Martin Luther King said to, what is his name, Belafonte? He told him straight up that I feel like I walked my people into a burning building. And that's exactly what he did. But go ahead.
Woe to the shepherds of Israel that do feed themselves.
And it was only to feed. And most people that you consider to be a man of God, they're only there to feed themselves. Go
ahead. Feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock?
And they're not feeding the flock. And when you feed the flock, what are you feeding them with?
With the truth.
With the truth. And they're feeding with lies, which is why the flock is slaughtered. You know what I'm saying? It's being slaughtered right now. But with that, any more on that?
No, that's the end of that.
4? Is it verse 4?
There's a verse 3.
What's the verse 3?
Ye eat the fat and ye clothe you with the wool.
It's talking about, your pulpit preachers that are all about this money, that are eating grandma's SSI check. But go ahead.
Ye kill them that are fed, but ye feed not the flock.
Go ahead, keep reading.
The disease have ye not strengthened, neither have ye healed that which was sick.
Well, we're going to leave it at that. With that, we're going to class. I know you Negroes are going to go to Atlanta, Georgia and kiss the MLK statue. And keep in mind, one last thing. Most streets, after he died, a year later, most streets were named after, and over 100 streets were named after MLK. That's how much they wanted you to idolize someone that actually was part of the government's game plan. To further lead us down to destruction. But with that, we're going to class. Officer Isaiah Allah.
The sisters and the Passover announcements.
We got to cut it. But yeah, Passover's coming up April 9th at White Plains, New York, Westchester County Center is where it's going to be held at. Definitely, if any sisters, what?
Looking for 40 sisters, to do some work, put in some work.
We're looking for 40 sisters.
Babysitting and service.
To put in some work for babysitting and service. No nutcases, please. We don't need no women that are schizophrenic and whatnot. But with that, we're going to class for sake of time. Shalom, Israel.